Hello everybody, John Price here from the CiL. Today we're taking a look at Road America, and I already did this recording once and then realized I forgot to hit start on it, so might be a little bit brief in some sections, but we're going to take a look at this 2-minute .983 second lap. Had about 10 gallons in the tank, not a perfect lap, actually screwed up a couple of places in it, but I'll highlight those when we get to it. And anyways, we'll take a look at this lap in full. It's about 110-degree track temp on it. This was in Sean Campbell's session that he was hosting on the hosted sessions. But anyways, we'll take a look at this in full and then go over it in detail. All right, Road America, not too bad of a lap. Definitely a couple mistakes in their first corner, and then I think turn 13 we really screwed up as well, and maybe a little bit cautious down into Canada corner. But overall, not too terrible a lap. I think the lines are rather representative, so we'll take a look at it. So running down to turn 1, as I just mentioned, this was one of the areas that we had. Actually, I should probably look at the right lap, shouldn't I? That might be helpful. This was one of the areas that we actually had the issue, and we had a little bit too much rotation on the entrance to this corner, so we just brake a little bit too hard, overload the front a little bit, and just kind of get it sitting on the nose entering the corner. So we'll watch it on the board on board first, so you can see we've got a lot of oversteer on entry here, and then it's going to kind of even out, and then we're going to turn into the corner. So not the most ideal approach to it. Somehow the front manages to hook up with it. When we take a look at that 2-minute .2 lap down there, that was probably going to be a little bit more representative of what you can expect. But in terms of braking reference, we're looking at just before this 3-cone marker here. So really we should be getting into the brakes just as I hit play here. And then it's going to be holding a fair amount of pressure down 3 gears and then getting the car turned in, aiming to meet up with the apex just about there. You can take quite a bit of curb here. And then actually once you get to this point, you can be with 2 tires on the inside of this corner, kind of 2 tires in the dirt here. Sometimes that helps to even turn the car a little bit. I see MX5 guys with all 4 tires on the inside of the white line. I don't think that's safe to do in the GT3 or the GTE cars, but either way, you can definitely take a fair amount of curb here on the inside, and then run it all the way there to the outside, getting the throttle nice and fast, and taking a lot of curb on the exit. So going through turn 2, which is non-existent of a corner, and then to turn 3, we're aiming for this little white strip here that's just in front of the car. So there you can see it there. Aims up with that 2 board on the outside. We're going to brake just after that into full pressure and then down a few gears into second gear. Get it turned in nice and early, bleed out of those brakes, and then meet up with the corner just about here. We're going to hug the corner for a fair distance as well, and then let it bleed to the outside. And then this is about the maximum amount of curb you can take on the exit. We see you put both tires off on the outside in the dirt and gravel there, and that's about all you can do. Any more than that, you will almost always get a off-track penalty. And then running down towards turn 5, probably the hardest braking zone on the course, just trying to minimize the distance. You can get right up next to this white line if you prefer. I don't like to get too close to this, if you want to call it an apex at this point, because I'm already planning for the braking zone that's up here. So we're kind of aiming at the 3 board, and then by the time we get to the 3 board, we're already parallel with the course, and then we're going to brake pretty much full pressure right about 2.5. Hold full pressure well past the 1 board, going to go down to first gear fairly late, so that's our last downshift just now, and now we're turning the car in, starting to bleed off that pressure. If you have an issue with the rear end of the car stepping out a lot here, oftentimes it's due to that last downshift into first gear. So if anything, delay that downshift a little bit longer. It's going to help to get a little bit more understeer actually, or maybe just eliminate some oversteer in the chassis, and then you can go down to first gear and nail the exit. So don't take too much curb here on the inside. It does have a tendency to kind of catch the car if you put a couple tires into the grass here, but definitely capitalize all of this exit curb here. I even leave about, I don't know, a foot or so on the exit, maybe even a little bit more than that. So you can play with all of that out there for sure. And then running up to underneath Corvette Bridge, turn 6, I'm braking at about halfway through these radical banners here on the right side, and you cannot use full brake pressure here because of the nature of the circuit and with this crest, because you have to turn in right as you get over the crest too. So I think we're going from 4th to 2nd gear, or maybe 3rd to 2nd gear. I think it's 3rd to 2nd gear. We're going to leave it in 2nd because that's going to help us maintain the exit here. So just kind of slowly bleeding into the throttle as we get to this apex, and then open up the steering, use some of that curb there on the exit. We're in full throttle by now for sure. So then turn 7, work your way all the way over to the left-hand side. Don't give any space here on the outside, because that's always going to be time left on track if you leave any space here on the outside. And then it's going to be a fast bleed off the throttle on the entrance, and then straight back into it as we get onto the apex. I drag a tiny amount of brake. I'm talking 5% or so on the entrance here as well. I don't even think I do that every lap. But then back to full throttle just after this point here, and use all of this exit curb on the outside. So now aiming for turn 7 or 8 is it? Let me take a look at the track map really quick. Turn 8. So we're going to be braking just between the 3 and the 2 board here, probably a little bit closer to the 2 board if anything. And we're going to go down to 2nd gear for this one, not using first. First is too short of a gear for this corner with this particular gear stack in this car. And just kind of bleed into the throttle on the exit here. So big brakes here, maintaining full peak pressure, down to 2nd gear. Take a lot of curb here on the entrance, and then bleed it out to the outside. Take as much curb as you want to here. You can even get away with a little bit of gravel on the exit as well. And now onto the carousel. Very tricky corner. I enter it from the far left side, full throttle in 3rd gear, I want to say, and then we're just kind of carry that full throttle as far as we can into it, and then jump out of the throttle all of the way, make it into a bit of a double apex, and then get on the throttle progressively to try to meet up with that last apex. So we're out of the throttle by this point. Car's going to drift a little bit wider, and then we're going to bring it back tight again to meet up with the curbing here that's going to be kind of late in the corner. So by this point we're parallel with this curbing. We can even be a little bit closer to it preferably, but we're in full throttle a long ways back, starting all the way back here. We're in full throttle. So by this point, and you can see we're a long ways away from the curb already, we're already into full throttle. The risk here is understeer and wide of this, at which point you're going to have to get out of the throttle again before you make it to the exit of the corner. But you do want to use all of the exit curb that you can on the exit. Then for the kink, one of my favorite corners, you're going to enter from the far left side. Don't give any space here on the outside, and in GTE cars, it should be flat. I'll go back and check for the GT3 cars. I do not know if it will be flat for them, but it certainly should be flat for GTE cars if you have the car set up right. And it's just kind of get it turned in a little bit earlier than you think. You can take a little bit of curb here, and then just kind of carry one steering angle, pick one and stick with it, and then try to open it up as fast as you can on the exit to minimize that front end drag. You can see we use just about all the curb there on the exit too, even a little bit more than. So again, very fast corner, tricky. If you're in traffic, may not be flat. Definitely may have to lift if you're behind another car. But in clean stream air, especially on a qualifying lap, and reminder, this is still with about 10 gallons in the car, it's definitely flat. And then aiming for Canada corner, tricky corner with the braking zone, given that it's downhill. You want to be on the outside here, and then aim to be parallel with the white strip on the outside of the corner. Parallel by the time you get to the 4 board, and then we're going to brake just before the 3 board, maybe closer to the 3.5, 3.25 mark. Full brakes down to 2nd gear, get it trail braked and turned in. We even missed the apex here a fair amount, and you can take some dirt here on the inside again if you want to. and then use all of this exit curb, bleed in the throttle nice and progressively, and you can use a little bit of curb here on the exit, or a little bit of gravel here on the exit, I mean. Then this is the other corner that we really make a big mistake at. We have a mistake here kind of mid-corner, maybe getting to the throttle a little bit too aggressively. The car doesn't take it, and we start to wash wide and have to get out of the throttle a second time. So we do it right on this 2-minute .2 lap. So when we take a look at that one, watch this corner there. But overall, you turn in a little bit earlier, brake, or sorry, not even brake, but you get out of the throttle at this point. Then by the time you get back to this point, you should be full throttle, but we're a little bit wide of the apex for my liking here. So you're going to see us get out of the throttle again before we get all the way to this exit curb. This exit curb's a little bit dangerous too. It has a nasty bump in it that can upset the rear of the car. So if you've got a lot of lateral load in the car when you meet up with this curb, it can throw the car in a variety of directions. So just be careful with that. And then last corner on the course, I think it's turn 14. We're looking for this change in surface type where this kind of seam is in the pavement. And it's going to be a decent amount of brake and then a very fast trail off while we're still kind of trending toward this outside edge. So we meet up with this outside curb here, and then we're going to start to trail off pretty early down in second gear and then get the car turned in. And all of the curb that you can on the apex. You're really trying to straighten up the exit of this corner since it's so critical. We've got a long uphill section and a long straight after that. And then use all of the exit curb that you can. You can even use a little bit of dirt here on the exit if you prefer as well. Some people say if you go to the inside of the course here, it's a lower slope and you can actually get a little bit better drive off the corner. I don't think that's necessarily the truth. I want to say I've tested it both ways and it didn't seem to matter all that much. But anyways, I'll throw up the sound really quick so we can get the other lap going, and we'll take a look at this 2:02, or sorry, 2 minutes flat .2 from the cockpit scene. Alright, so that wasn't too bad of a lap actually. Really the only major mistake that I think we made was on the exit of the carousel, that pretty massive save that I think we had to get away with. And that was all because we got into the throttle a little bit too early. So actually let's go back and take a quick look at that since we're only about 14 minutes in on this video. So we pick up the throttle just way too early here, and that's going to push the car wide at the apex. So we're in full throttle at this point, trying to meet up with the apex. You can see that we're wide here, so really the smart thing to do would be to kind of come out of the throttle a little bit and try to make sure that you don't have the issue that we're about to have. But on this lap, I was already kind of tired. I just wanted to get the lap out. But anyways, we just take a little bit too much curb there. We've already got, with the camber that it changes, we've already got some oversteer before we even get to the grass, and then it's just a massive catch here, and then trying to keep it on track while maintaining full. I don't think we lift on the exit there, so I'm proud of that at least. And then flat through the kink again. So again, a decent lap, and most of the braking points are fairly similar for that lap as compared to the about 7/10 of a second slower one. But overall, it's going to be tricky. Be careful on the starts. It's not the widest of tracks, so you got to give a lot of space to your competitors. Don't be shoving people off corners. And also something we've been seeing happen a lot more lately with the mixed traffic is GTE cars coming up to lap a GT3 car, and the GT3 cars just do not have the mid-apex speed that the GTE cars can have. So GTE guys got to be a little bit patient in getting around some of these GT3 cars, and just try not to be right up underneath their bumper mid-corner, because they will definitely be slower than you, and you will run into them and send them spinning. So be careful with that, watch for it, and let's have a good race this next Tuesday night. All right, if you guys have any questions, you feel free to shout out to me in the chat, and I'll be happy to answer them. But until next time, we'll talk to you then.